let's begin. Let's begin. We're going to start with a talk. So I'm going to give you a bit of an anatomy talk and lay some foundational work before our practice today. So make yourself comfortable, sit up in a chair, sit well in active posture, which I'll guide you through in a moment, turning off all the other things, coming really fully into your body right now. Right, so in active posture, you want to sit up. Let your pelvis, instead of tucking under and hanging back in a couch, right, sit up on a nice sturdy chair. Let your pelvis tilt forward a little bit. Not like this. This is not good posture either, right? But just kind of maybe tilt and tuck, rolling through your sitting bones for a moment. Come to the center of your sitting bones and very slightly toward the front of the sitting bones down here in your buttocks. And then from that place, lengthen the whole of the spine. And notice when you're wanting to sit up in active posture, is there a sense that you're thrusting? If there is, it might be that you're kind of used to slouching, which again wreaks havoc on the neck and shoulders and the back and the hips, by the way. But for our purposes, sitting in a slouched position, sitting on your couch. I don't sit on a couch. I almost never, literally almost never, maybe once a month or so at a friend's house. But I often will put pillows underneath my buttocks so that I can sit up and cross my legs. I do not slouch on a couch ever. Because I've spent so much time honing in my posture, right? So sitting up, slight tilt in the pelvis, lengthening, and then bring your attention to your back ribs right here, just above your low back, right in the center of your back. And I want that place to rise up toward the crown of the head, the back of the head. So that keeps you from thrusting forward. Those back ribs right here rise up. And that creates just a softening in the front ribs. And then the whole of the spine gets pulled from an imaginary rope that's coming out the top of your head, tethered up to the heavens. Let that pull you. That lengthening right there, it's active posture for a reason. You aren't just hanging out, or you aren't just getting in good in what you feel like might be better posture and hanging out, right? There's an action that over time becomes easy. But it's a lengthening and a lifting so that you are tractioning your spine. When the spine compresses from slouching or leaning forward or hanging, then we set up the conditions to compress nerves. And when you compress nerves, nothing can work properly. So using that traction, my mama used to have me walk around with a book on my head. It works, right? You can't be in bad posture with walking around with a book on your head. And then I would add, push the book up to the ceiling, like you're trying to push a button, so that through that action, you're lengthening your spine, keeping those back ribs rising up as well as the front, and tractioning your spine, decompressing the discs, and alleviating pressure on the nerves. So from this place, I want you to take your hands to your belly and close your eyes and come in to your body. Take 3 belly breaths. And again. One more time. And just take a moment to send a loving message through your body, like, okay, you got some problems, body, but we're going to work together. We're going to work together. I love you, body. Thank you. Thank you. And then open your eyes. Welcome. Welcome to class 2 of our July 2022 Unbind the Neck and Shoulders. Today, we're going to get real specific in what I call the big three. The big three are pecs, lats, and teres. So I just want to explain a little bit. We're going to spend more time in the pecs, further freeing the entire shoulder girdle. And we're going to work on two more key muscles that create internal rotation at the shoulders. When your shoulder is internally rotated, so if this one's back and this one is rotated forward, notice I feel strain in my neck when I do that. So take a moment and just kind of internally rotate your shoulders. I feel some strain in my neck when I do that. So this is internal rotation. This is external rotation, right? This is our how wonderful pose, right? This is external rotation. So it's really important if you have, I know some of you are dealing with shoulder injury and rotator cuff injury. If you do not release first some belly, hopefully you've been doing some of that this week, freeing up the nerve supply through the scalenes. And if you don't release the big three, pecs, lats, and teres, and the other internal rotators, your shoulder's going to continue to be internally rotated. And when you internally rotate the shoulders, I want you to watch what happens to like my shoulder blades. When I internally rotate, my shoulder blades widen and my traps get all jacked up because they're attached to the shoulder blades. So when the shoulder blades move away from each other, like in an internal rotation, they widen apart. It strains that space in between the shoulder blades, and it strains the upper traps, which can lead to neck pain and headaches. And it also pulls all four of the rotator cuff muscles. So we're going step by step through this process of freeing the things that tend to cause the problems. And they're not usually the parts that cry out. Remember, the parts in your body that are crying out in pain are the end of the tensional line. Just like I might have a pull down here in my shirt, and it's going to pull and it's going to pull and it's going to keep pulling and it's going to keep pulling. This area is not going to hurt me, right? Or maybe it's my belly muscles, right? That's not going to hurt. What's going to hurt is the last thing in the process that's being pulled. Because by the time it gets up to the shoulder, it's like, whoa, and the shoulder can't resist the pull of all of this below. I hope that makes sense. So a rotator cuff is important in the shoulder because it stabilizes the shoulder. The shoulder, when it's happy, when the muscles are in balance, is the most freely movable joint in the body. It is a full ball and socket, and the socket is just like a very tiny little almost completely flat surface, and then the ball of the humerus sets inside there. So there structurally is not a lot of stability. You just got bone come into a little cartilage lip, a labrum, and then the ball needs muscle contraction to really stabilize it in the socket. Now what's going to happen every time that humerus slides forward in the socket, it's going to activate your rotator cuff muscles, because their job is to stabilize that humerus, the arm bone in the socket, stabilize the whole shoulder joint, and keep that humerus in the center of the socket. Then it can move freely. If it's forced to the front or kind of not aligned in the socket well, most often due to rounding of the shoulders, then it's not going to move well. It's not going to move as well. And the rotator cuff muscles are going to get really activated all the time, even when you sleep, to try to pull that humerus back to the center of the socket, which is why we get into pain, and it can go on for decades, literally, because there's a pattern that we haven't unwound. And the big three, pecs, lats, and teres, which we did some work on last week, and we're going to do some more work again. We're going to do it at the wall this time. The pecs, lats, and teres are big muscles. Pec major covers the whole chest and attaches right here in the front. Latissimus covers like most of your back. It comes up along this edge and attaches right here in the front at the same spot that pec major does. teres majors, I call it the fat sausage at the back of the armpit. It too is a big, strong muscle. It's just fat, it's shorter, it's just like thick and fat, it's got a strong pull. It also comes and attaches right here at the front of the shoulder. So you might get a little bit of a pull here at the front of the shoulder. It might ache here at the front of the shoulder. But if you're just rolling on that spot in the front of the shoulder, you actually might be making things worse because you're pressing into tendons. And tendons don't really like to be dug into. So be gentle. We are going to roll this area today. We're going to use the soft ball, and we're going to stay up in the deltoid, not down here in that attachment site. Or if we do, we're going to do it gently, right? If there's if you put a lot of pressure into this area, your muscles aren't really going to like it, and it won't feel good. It never does. It never does. So it's so important. Over time, we live rounded forward a little bit. We eat rounded forward. We go to the bathroom rounded forward. I'm just going to say it, right? We look down at our devices. We look down at our devices. We pick up our children. We carry things rounded forward. We grab things out of our closets, pull from our drawers. We climb trees. We're designed to climb trees. Maybe you haven't been climbing trees lately, but your body is designed to climb trees. That's why the big three is so big, because it's meant to be able to pull your body weight fully up when you're climbing trees to get food or get to safety, you know. So we're going to release the big three, and I recommend if you have a rotator cuff issue or shoulder injury that you are working with, do a little bit on the big three every single day, and then maybe spend like 1 minute on each side of the scalenes. And then, you know, the idea with this work is that you find the places that have the best effect. Right now, I have to give you everything. Not everyone needs everything. Not everyone needs to release their infraspinatus on their shoulder blade, which we'll get to probably next week more specifically. But you find the things that feel the best to you. And what will happen is over time, as you are reminding your body, when I put a ball here, you let go, it gets easier and easier and easier. In the beginning, you might feel some soreness. You might have had some soreness in your body last week. You might have a little bit of soreness, but it goes away pretty quickly. Always use the softest ball that you can and still kind of feel something, feel some change. Remember to breathe in your belly because that softens the nervous system and helps the tissue release. And it helps to just keep you going back, and it just helps everything. Breathing in your belly helps everything. So today we're going to get real specific in pecs. We're going to work this edge, this very edge of pecs. We're going to get into the valley of the shoulder a little bit. Then we're going to come out more toward the center of each side of the chest. There's often a line of trigger points from the center of the sternum to the outside of the armpit, right down the middle. There's often some points. We'll just spend like 1 minute on either side of the scalenes just to give that opening. You're going to learn some specific movement breaks today and some really nice stretches and how to do them well so that you're not just throwing yourself into a big stretch and hoping for the best. That's how a lot of people injure themselves with stretching and trying yoga. They just go too far too fast. When you release the trigger points, your tissues can open much more easily and be more free. So yes, soreness can happen. It goes away. The intensity of the tenderness of the trigger points gets less and less and less. And the amount of time it takes you to release the trigger points gets less all the time. So you'll always be able to find tender points. It's not like we're going to make it go away forever. But what we can do is tone it down to a place where the trigger points aren't causing pain and dysfunction in your body. I can always roll around and find some tender spots, but they're not causing me pain. They're not so activated that they're causing pain. And then the other piece is I can find a trigger point. I know right where to go. I take 2 breaths and it goes away. So it's a training process. We're training your body. When I put a ball here, you let go. And so today, we're going to very specifically release the internal rotators of the shoulder, those muscles that get short with all of our internal rotation, what we call life, because so much of our life is rounding forward or reaching or carrying or holding or lifting or driving. And then we'll be able to get more and more effective with the actual rotator cuff itself. And actually one of the muscles we're working on is a rotator cuff muscle. It's the one that has the strongest pull and internal rotation. So we're going to do it together with this grouping. If you do nothing else, if you just do these internal rotators, you're going to feel much better. Even if you don't ever get to the muscles that are causing your pain right now, if you keep releasing the muscles that are pulling on them, you're going to feel better. You're going to get better, because then those muscles, the rotator cuff can soften, the other muscles can soften because they're not being pulled on all the time. So I really wanted to lay that foundation before we got to some practice. So just take a couple deep breaths in your belly, let that sink in, re-watch this part of the program a couple times in the next week. We're going to take a breath here. And then get psyched. We are going to do such a great practice today. So we're going to work mostly at the wall. We'll end on the floor, but I wanted to give you lots of stuff that you could do on the wall. And we're going to start like we do with some movement. So you're going to come to stand up. I'm going to move my chair just out of the way. And I'm going to lift this camera so you can see my movements. Let's see if that's enough. Ah, yes, great. That's just a little tiny bit higher. Okay. So remember, pain-free range of motion. If you're swinging your arms and you're like, kuh, kuh, then just swing it like this, right? Pain-free range of motion. And if you're doing it and you're struggling and it hurts, pause, bring your hands to your heart and go, that's hard, that hurts, and acknowledge the messages that your body is giving you. So starting with just some arm swings, right? Remember, nothing replaces movement in your body. So I practice stillness as a spiritual practice in my life. I sit in prayer every single day. I start my day that way. That's a cultivated practice, but I am not sitting still much of the rest of the time. Even when I'm in the grocery store, I might be doing shoulder circles. I'm the lady at the airport who's like, okay, I'm gonna get, and the next thing I know, there's like 5 people around me going, hey, that looks really good. We're about to get on a plane, right? So movement, nothing replaces movement. And ever since I have instilled that in my daily, all day long routine, I don't have any pain in my body. I have no regular pain in my body at all. And I've healed sciatica, I've healed shoulder injury, I've healed chronic headaches, I've healed all kinds of things in my body. And the movement, I find I have to do much less self-trigger point release if I move. That's why it's one of those 5 key points to freedom. So do what feels good for your body. I'm going to guide you through some specific movements, but right now just kind of swinging the arms, getting those shoulders free and open and hydrated. Okay. Those of you who have taken a shoulder class with me before are familiar with the very famous ITYW. So we're about to do that. So I'm going to show that, and I'm going to lift this camera just a little bit so you can see the whole thing, right? So, and you may have this in your PT routine. The ITYW, let's get shorter, is I, right? So the I is arms up and over. The T is sweep the arms out to a T. The Y is why, because we love you. And then the W is the how wonderful. Okay, so we're going to start just moving through those movements together. We're going to go I, T, Y, W. And when I go into W, I really kind of arch my back and squeeze my shoulder blades towards each other. And just keep going at your own pace. I, pain-free. If it's not pain-free, just do one arm. The nerves reflect onto the other side. 15% of the nerves from this shoulder feed the muscles on this side. So even just doing it and imagining the other side doing it works. It really does. I've seen it so many times. W, right? So I, T, Y, and W. And keep going. I, T, Y, W. Keep going. I, Y, and W, and I, T, Y, W. I, T, Y, and W. One more time. I, T, Y, and W. Squeeze, squeeze. Stay in the W. Stay in the W. Arch your back. Squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other. Push the palms back. Push the elbows back. And then relax the arms. Inhale, shoulders up to the ears. Exhale, drop. 2 more times. Inhale, shoulders up to the ears. Exhale, drop. Last one. Shoulders up to the ears. And exhale, drop. And now we're going to do some circles, right? Remember, the movement breaks take about a minute for each one. So I just looked at the clock, and we're just going to keep doing this. What we're doing is using the head of the humerus to clean out the shoulder joint itself. We're rotating that around the joint. What we're also doing is freeing up the back by rotating, freeing up around the spine with this rotation. You might hear some clunking or some kind of rolling over of some tendons. I want you to know that's normal. The shoulder blade is a floating bone. It's embedded inside soft tissue. And so there's a lot of tendons and things that it has to kind of roll over. It's normal to hear like crunk, crunk. 2 more seconds. And exhale. Great. I want you to start to bring your arms out to the side. Slowly rising. Now I want your arms to get up to a T, and then I want you to draw the shoulders into the socket. Just imagine that you're drawing the humerus strongly in. Now I want you to reach it way out. Reach your fingers as far out as you can go, and then draw the shoulders in a little bit. Reach the arms out, draw the shoulders in. Keep the shoulders drawn in, bend your elbows, draw your arms in front of you. Shoulders back, okay? Great. And then now you're going to cross your right elbow under your left, and your arms are crossed. Can you wrap the arms around and bring the palms together? If not, the backs of the palms together, or if you're like this, that's fine, working toward that rotation, right? We're just going to take 2 breaths here. Bring your attention to that space where you're feeling the stretch, most likely between your shoulder blades right now. Stretching the rhomboids. And then we release. And we're going to go other side, arms out to the side, palms up, bend the elbows, arms come forward, shoulders back in the sockets, duck the left elbow under the right, bring the palms toward each other, wrap around if you can, and then just lifting here, holding the elbows at about shoulder height. Take a couple breaths, that's it. And then release the arms, couple big circles and swings. Great. Now we're going to come to the wall and do a little bit of stretching, more stretching, show you a couple of strengtheners and great movement breaks before we get into some rolling. Adjusting the camera a little bit here. Do, 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 do. That's a little close. The camera's like, I don't know what to do with that. That's a little close. Okay, great. So I want to show you a couple of things that can really help to open the chest, build strength in a way that is going to support your chest being really open. So I call this just arching at the wall. So we're going to start with that. Bring your butt to the wall, and then bring your shoulders to the wall and see if you can get your head to the wall. So if your chest has been really collapsed forward, see how my head comes forward? It's automatic. So can you lift and open the chest a little bit? And then bring your elbows down by your sides. Elbows down by the sides. And then we're going to press the elbows into the wall and keep the head back. So it's like bridge pose on the wall. You press the elbows into the wall, press, 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 arch the back. My butt is staying on the wall. So just so you can see it, my butt is staying on the wall and my head is staying back on the wall or close to it. And press, 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 and relax. We're going to do that one more time. Come to stand up. My butt's on the wall. My feet are a little forward. My elbows come to the wall. And then I arch my back and push the elbows. I use the elbows to push the sternum and the chest forward. Head to the wall if that's possible. Press, press, press. Strengthening the back muscles to open the chest. And relax. Okay. And then the next step of this is to bring the arms out to the wall. I'm going to go to this side. Is to bring the arms out to the wall, and then maybe can you bend the elbow? I'm like, I'm in a corner. I'm totally in a corner. Can you bring the elbows up, right? And then play with this a little bit in my way. It's pretty, but I'm just going to get it out of the way. Okay. So that I don't have to be quite so in the corner. So the elbows are up on the wall, right? And then I'm sliding up and sliding down. I'm sliding up and sliding down. So I want to see, can I keep my head on the wall? Can I keep my back on the wall and slide up and slide down? This is a great movement break. This is a great movement break. We're going to do this for about 20 more seconds. Slide up and down, up and down. Why? Because it trains us to keep the chest open and keep the head back relative to the shoulders. It's hard, right? It seems so easy. Yeah. One more. Notice, do your elbows come off or your hands want to come off? That might be happening. It's okay. Do the best you can. Relax the arms out. Come forward off of the wall and roll your shoulders. All right. Great. Take a couple of deep breaths. Grab your ball toolkit so that we're going to get ready now to release the chest, the pecs, lats, and teres. And we're going to get into a little tiny muscle called pec minor. So important, really helps with that numbness and tingling that can go down the hands to the hands. Okay. So first step, grab your soft ball. If it worked well for you to release your pecs with the block, then go ahead and do so. I'm going to start with my left shoulder, my left side. So I'm going to place the block on the wall. Now I'm going to take that ball and sink in. Remember, the further you step your feet away, the more you lean into the wall. The further you go back, always keep one leg forward to support underneath your body. And then now you're going to start going side to side and circling all around the chest. This is a soft ball. So with this ball and only the soft ball, you can go right across the sternum, right? So let that ball come actually to the very center of your chest and go right across the sternum. Feel where that bone is because we're going to go along the side of it. And that's the beautiful thing about the soft ball. You can do everywhere in your body, and you can't do that with other balls, especially with firm balls. So going side to side across the sternum, that gets that. The sternum is one of the only two areas in the body that's only skin and a little thin layer of connective tissue and bone. That's it. There's no fat in there. There's no muscle on top of the sternum. So it's it can get very sticky over time. So now I want you to get to the right side. Explore the right side of your chest. Just moving your body around. I want to see how much you can see. I'm going to see if I can even bring this computer up. So you're just circling around on the right side of your chest. Ooh, it worked. Nice. You're just circling around on the right side of your, or excuse me, the left side of your chest. Oh, left side. Notice, do you have it, are you like pulling your head? Can you keep your neck neutral? Can you keep your breath in your belly for now? And now that the tissue has gotten a little bit of hydration and has warmed up a little bit, I want you to get on the sternum and then get right next to it. And then bend and straighten your knees. Go up and down the sternum on the left side of it. So here's my sternum in the middle, and I'm going just to the left side of it and going up and down. Just to the left side and going up and down. I have worked with people who we got rid of their migraines, releasing the big three. We got rid of their migraines. We got rid of their headaches. We got rid of their shoulder injury that didn't get better after surgery, right? It's really such a missing piece for so many people. And so now we're just going to get into that valley. And I find myself kind of doing this little pump sometimes where it's nice about the softball. You can get in there, you can do a little kind of pump, just kind of bouncing on it a little bit. That deeply gets fluids pushing through this area that tends to get sticky because there's a lot of connective tissue here. So maybe doing some pumping. And then now with the arm in that valley, we're going to go up and down. You're going to sink and stay in one place. Notice I'm not directly facing the wall. I'm turned about 45 degrees, and I've got the ball right in that valley, and I'm sinking in, and then I'm moving the arm while I keep the ball still. Right in that valley of the shoulder, that upper intersection of the arm and the chest. So good. Bless the soft balls, truly. All right, we're going to stop the movement of the arm, circle round a little bit. And then now we're going to get that edge, that flap of pec major, which is the part we can grab. We're going to get the ball. I'm going to scoot this back just a little bit. Drop this down. Okay, we're going to get the ball right on that edge of the pecs. So it looks like this. The arm is kind of back, just kind of out of the way. And I want you to like wiggle side to side, little twist side to side, feel that speed bump. When you're going over that edge, it feels like a clunk, 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 clunk. Okay, we're looking for that speed bump, and it's right on the edge at the front of the armpit. Ooh. And then find what's the right angle when I am turned almost more to the right, and I'm just kind of catching that edge and sink in. So find a tender spot in that area and sink in, that's all. And then you can play with some arm movement. If it moves you off the point, then you can play with just a little shoulder movement. So you get a little pull in that area, but it's not too much for you. One more breath here. All right, and then we're going to go right to the center of the left side of the chest. Here's sternum in the center. Here's that flap of the armpit where we're just working. The ball's going to go up and down the center of the left side of the chest. Yes, you can switch to your firmer ball if you want, no problem. I'm going to stick with the soft ball that feels best to my body. And so I'm going to put the ball right in the center, I don't even need that actually, of the left side of the chest and go up and down. Sometimes there's 3 trigger points in a little row here. So if you have them and you find a tender spot, remember when you use the firmer ball, step a little closer to the wall. I want to get a little more specific. Oh yeah, oh. Now as I go up and down, I'm like, ooh, there's a spot right in there. Play with angle so you can go up and down, but also there's a tiny little twist to find different angles. And when you find a tender spot, sink in, stop moving altogether, and take a couple breaths. I find if I twist just a little tiny bit to the right, I get right on that spot. Oh. Your spot might be in a slightly different place than mine, and that's normal. One more breath. And then start moving and circling. If you switch to the firmer ball, you'll notice it's all more tender, right? The goal isn't to kind of beat it out of your body, right? The goal is to explore, be sweet, gentle. So now we've done left side pec major. We did along the edge of the sternum, that center, the valley, and the edge. So I just want to play with that a little bit and see what is the difference. I want you to do some circles. I have a lot of clunking on the right side. I have almost no clunking now on the left side. Little tiny bit, but not the crunch crunch that I feel on the right side. And then come do your how wonderful. What does your how wonderful feel like? So if you bring your arms out to the side, palms face up, squeeze the shoulder blades back toward each other. And I'm just looking at my arms now. My right elbow is still more forward. My left elbow goes back much further than my right one, just from that little bit of release. So we're going to now take that left hand to the wall at shoulder height, as long as that's not painful. Left hand to the wall at shoulder height. Press the hand into the wall. We're going to do this a little differently than we did last week. You're going to turn away from the wall and turn your whole body, not just a twist. And then this time, you're going to grab that edge, front edge of the pecs and pull it forward as you're twisting and keeping that arm back. So that's going to look like this. Arm at about shoulder height. I'm about a foot or a foot and a half away from the wall. Grabbing that front flap of the armpit, that pec major. Press the hand a little into the wall. Push the elbow toward it a little bit. Turn your body away and then kind of grab and pull. Maybe the head turns to the right. Great, and then relax. Circle the shoulder a few times. And now we're going to go to this right side, okay? Soft ball again. I'm going to find another block. So finding the right side of the chest and just sink around it, swirl around it, play around it a little bit with the ball. And I want to make sure I'm throwing everything today. I want to see if I can make that tiny. Yeah, I can. Okay. So all over the left side, or right side. I got right and left issues today, apparently. You know, for years I taught yoga mirroring. So it's automatic in my brain a lot of the time to say left side when I'm doing things on my right side, because for, 20 some years, I've been teaching mirroring. But now on video, I teach the same side and my brain hasn't completely flipped from the mirroring teaching. All right. So circling all around that right side. Explore, bump up to that sternum, right? Get onto the sternum itself. Notice when you start concentrating and kind of exploring, do you start holding your breath? Do you clench your jaw? Do your eyes get narrow and focused? Can you soften all of that? Soften the breath in the belly. Can you soften your eyes in their sockets? Can you soften your jaw? And so now we're going to do things systematically, right? We're going to come to the outer edge. So I'm even off the pecs. You can start even kind of in those ribs just below the armpit. And then you can go side to side. That arm is relaxed. Can you feel that edge of pecs? Can you feel that edge of pecs? Clunk, clunk, clunk. And remember, everyone's body is a little bit different. It might feel a little different to you. You might not feel as much of a clunk clunk, but you should feel a thickness of tissue that you're moving over. And maybe that description works better for your body or your understanding. I'm moving down, get down to that lower section. You're going to start deciding like, maybe it was up higher that it felt a little bit more tender. For me, that's true. And we're going to kind of try to trap that thickness of tissue, that thickness of the pecs, and kind of sink into it. And then you can start that arm movement. I'll go to the other wall so you can see that. Turned, I'm trapping that edge of my pecs. So important for the neck. And then going up and down with the arm. And your movement might just be like this. Your movement might explore reaching behind you with a hand off the wall. Play with different things. Explore your body. Listen to the messages your body is giving you. Remember, if you want more pressure, you step a little further away from the wall to lean in. Less pressure, you're going to step in more closely. So good-ish, right? This work is always good-ish because it's so helpful and it feels like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was there, but ow, I don't know if I like that, right? So we did that edge. We're going to go right into the valley of the shoulder and we're going to go back into that arm movement. So we get right into that intersection, right where the arm and the shoulder come together, right? There's the valley. So we're going to get right in there. Again, you can always switch balls. You can use a firmer ball if you like. Try to keep your neck neutral to your spine. Sink in. I'm going to slide my block down so I can go even more deep there. And then those arm slides again. I really want you to explore, what does it feel like if I rotate my torso a little bit? If you rotate to the left, away from the ball a little tiny bit, it's going to help that ball sink in a little bit more. So, but your spot might be a little bit in, right? You got to explore your own body. I can get you like 95% of the way, and then that last 5% is all up to you, right? Like, what is the angle of your body? How thick is this layer of tissue relative to this layer of tissue? You're a unique, beautiful human that's a little bit different than everybody else, right? All right, just one more breath here. Oh, so good. Great. And then now we're going to go up and down the center of the right side of the chest. So kind of swirling around, then get to the center of the right side, and then go up and down. You can try the block up and down instead of, or the box, right? And then up and down. And I get that up and down by bending and straightening my knees. Now I'm straight, now I bend, now I go straight. And exploring along that line, I'm going to switch to a firmer ball. Along that line, do you have a one spot or 3 spots that feel more tender, right? Pick one. I'm going to come a lot closer to the wall. Now I have that much firmer ball. Let's see if I get even closer here. Go up and down. If you're not finding anything interesting, turn a little more toward the wall for this one. All right, I found it. I struck gold. I struck gold. So now I'm gonna sink in. Breathe. Play with bringing the breath when you're releasing the chest into the chest and expand from the inside out. Play with movement. It might be too much if you have a firmer ball. Sometimes it can help the tissue release, so maybe a little arm, a shoulder circle or shrug, right? If the big movement is too big, then just this is going to create a little pull and movement of that tissue underneath the ball. One more breath here. All right. Move off the ball. Now we've done that armpit, we've done that valley, and we did along the sternum, and we did the center. Okay, so that right shoulder should feel hopefully more free. So we're going to do some circles with both sides. Still a little bit of like a tenderness sound, but much better. Now we're going to stretch that right side of the pecs. So we're going to bring the hand to the wall at shoulder height, bend the elbow a little bit, push the elbow a little bit forward, staying away from the wall so you can turn your body. Keep a little pressure of the hand pushing into the wall. Stand up nice and tall. Grab that front flap of the pecs, right? Grab it, or even just pull like this. You can just kind of grab the tissue with your fingers and pull like that. And turning and pulling. Big breath here, all the way to the chest. And release. Release the arm. And we're going to do some big circles. We're going to do 10 big circles with the right arm. 10, 9, 8. Remember, pain-free range of motion might be like this. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then other arm, left arm. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. How wonderful. Elbows out to the sides, or your W, right? Draw the shoulders into the sockets a little bit, and then squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. Push the hands back. My right elbow is much further back now. Everything's a little bit freer and more open. If it's easy for you, I'd like you to clasp your hands behind your back. Now, you can just rest your hands on your sacrum down here and slightly lift the shoulders and then squeeze the elbows towards each other. And then take a few deep breaths. If that's easy and you'd like to go further, then you can straighten the arms behind you and squeeze the shoulder blades even more toward each other. Immediately, if it hurts, back off, go back to the last step. So, how wonderful. Step 1, clasping the hands behind your back, squeezing the elbows toward each other. Step 2, lifting the arms, squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other, straight arms behind you. Version step 3. So you pick. One more breath here. Great. Release. Wiggle a little bit. Do whatever your body needs right now. It might need a little bit of wiggling. And we're going to get into our pec minor now. So take a little sip of water, shake around a little bit. I'm actually going to take a little sip of water, and I'm going to show you how you're going to release your pec minor and why that's important. Okay. Pec minor is a key player in the nerve supply down to through your arms all the way down to your fingers. So again, some of you have told me that you're having some of that numbness, radiating tingling. Sometimes you at night falls asleep, and you know. So for this practice, you're going to use your small ball. Now, some of you who are my former students might have the double ball, the rad roller. Oh, I love that ball. You can use that also, and we have used that for this kind of practice. Here's what you're going to need: your box or your yoga block, and your small ball. Yours might be more green, yellow color. Pec minor, I want you to follow your collarbone. Find your collarbone, and then walk up to the corner right at the very top of the valley of the shoulder. Along the collarbone, right up at the top of the valley of the shoulder, this is where we're going to sink into pec minor. We're going to use the block to get there. So I follow as far out on the collarbone as I can get before I bump into the top of the humerus. We're going to take the block and put it like this against the wall. And you're going to put that ball right on it. Have it a little lower than you think so that you can step back a little. Arm dangles. And then you sink in. Now you can do it this way. You can have the block this way. It's just that your face gets kind of pushed a little bit closer to the wall. But this works just fine too if that feels a little bit too wobbly for you to have it this way. You're going to get that ball right in there. I'm going to show it again. Right here, as far out along the collarbone as you can get before bumping into the front of the arm. Right in there, top of that valley of the shoulder. Place the ball on the block. Sink in. You might feel a little nerviness, might feel a little funny. We're just sinking. We're not moving. We're not doing anything else. We're just going to sink right now because it takes a couple of breaths for the body to let you in this area. Because there's nerve supply, big nerve supply in here, it's a little like, do I want to let you in? Okay. As long as you're breathing and sinking. And now I'm starting to get deeper. I could feel my body sinking in more. My body is allowing me in there more. And I want you to play with those big chest breaths. You might feel a little nerve tinglies down the arm, totally fine. You might feel some interesting things. You might feel like the arm gets heavy. It's okay. We're sinking in. There's plenty of protection in this area. We're not damaging the nerve. It's why we sink in and we don't wiggle around or dig in there. We're just going to sink in and breathe. And I'd like you to take one more big chest breath here. Great. And we're going to step away. We're going to do the other side right away. I always actually like to do like one kind of just reach back, stretch, and open. Gosh, that just freed up my shoulders so much. So much, right? Pec minor, outside of the collarbone, as far out as you can get without rolling onto the arm. Right at the top of the valley there. We're going to place a block on the wall. We're going to get that ball to sink into that area. And we just sink. Now, the only movement you might do is a slight rotation of the torso to make sure that you're sinking into an area that is holding some tenderness. So when I just turned slightly to the right, I felt a little bit more stuff go down my hand. So I'm going to stay here and breathe. Breathe into the chest. So good. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Okay. We're going to move off of that pec minor spot. Super important if you're having any of those radiating numbness and tingling things. We're going to reach that arm back. Just do a couple of movements that feel good for your body. Just reaching that arm back. We're going to go back into ITYW, and I want you to see if that feels different to you now. So the arms come up and over. Look at how much closer my arms get to my ears. Like I was out here before and that was as far as I could get, right? So now I could even clap my hands easily. T, I just love this stuff. Y and W. I, T, Y, and W. One more time. I, T, Y, and W. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Inhale, stand up straight, shoulders up to the ears. And exhale, drop them. Okay, so we're going to sit down in a chair. We're going to release subscapularis. We're going to get into lats and teres, and then we're going to do some work in between the shoulder blades as a grand finale. So just a few more things to cover. And I want to sit down for this next piece, subscapularis. So I'm going to shuffle things around just a tiny bit. That was a real big close-up of my face. There you go. Great. All right. So I'm going to grab a chair. I'm going to encourage you to sit down in a chair. It's going to be better this other way. So this is what we're doing. Be much better this way for you to see. Okay. All right. All right. Sitting in a chair so that your body is supported, or sitting up well, wherever you can do that. I want you to take a moment to go into active posture again. So active posture is that slight tilt of the pelvis forward, lengthening up front and back ribs rising, crown of the head reaching up to the sky. And you might find that active posture is easier now that you've done a lot of releasing in your pecs. Subscapularis has a very strong pull on the shoulder. It sucks that humerus, that top of the arm bone, into the socket, and it's one of the 4 rotator cuff muscles. You need to use your thumb. There's some other ways that you can work with it, but for today, our purposes are that you're going to use your thumb and you're going to stick it in your armpit, and then I'm going to show you step by step how to do this next practice. So thumbs up, right thumb up. I want you to watch first. Here's what I call the deodorant line. It's like, where would you put your deodorant in the morning? And you're going to sink your thumb right into that area. Okay, so thumb goes into the center of your armpit basically. And then you drop the arm over. You can rest your arm on the opposite shoulder if it reaches, or you can just rest the arm down. And then you're going to now allow yourself to slouch forward. What that's going to do is draw that whole shoulder girdle forward and bring that shoulder blade forward, because subscapularis lives on the front of the shoulder blade. Now you can see I can kind of grab this if I want. I can grab that back flap of the armpit. So just gently resting your hand here, your thumb is going to push back toward your fingers. Arm relaxes, thumb pushes back toward your fingers. A little slouch forward. The arm can be up on the opposite shoulder, or you can rest it in your lap. I know some of you are having rotator cuff injury, so it might be easier for you. That's why we're doing it in this chair like this. And then explore. You might be able to feel, you might not be able to feel, but you might be able to feel that you're actually pressing into the shoulder blade itself. So slide your thumb in there and just give it a go. Can you find a tender spot? I keep working my thumb kind of angled up higher and higher. In that upper corner of the shoulder blade, there's often a tender, really tender spot up there. So one of the curious things about trigger points in this muscle are that they also cause an ache in the wrist. So if you're having some shoulder stuff and you're having an ache in the wrist, which almost feels like a compression strap wrapped around your wrist, or just like this ache across the top of the wrist, you might be having subscapularis points. So I'm sliding in there. I'm pushing my thumb toward my fingers. My fingers are just hanging out there. They're not really squeezing or doing anything right now. And I'm just pushing my thumb, and maybe you can feel the bone. Take a couple breaths, relax the rest of your body. Push, push, push with the thumb. Shift the angle, walk up higher. Push, push, push. Ooh, that's such a good spot. Oh, it's tender. Couple of breaths. Great, and then release and do some circles and opening the arm back. Ooh, it's so good, it's so effective. We're going to do the other side. So here's the steps, right? The steps are thumb to the armpit, do right to the center of the armpit where you would put deodorant. And the fingers kind of rest on the back. And then kind of wiggle your thumb around. You should feel some tissue in there. There's a muscle all in there. This arm, the right arm, can rest on the left shoulder, or you can lean forward and rest it down on your lap. as long as the arm is relaxed. You can't be holding it in any position. If you're holding it across, it's not going to work so well. If you're opening out this way, it's not going to work so well. So the arm has to be slightly, the shoulder rounded forward a little bit, and then pushing the thumb. And you can see, like here, I'm pushing my thumb into soft tissue. That's not what I want. I want to push, I'm going to move it back a little and push into, I can feel the firmness of the shoulder blade under my thumb. So I'm going to sink that in. I'm going to rest my arm on the back of this chair. That works real well. And I'm just pushing that thumb toward my fingers here. Fingers aren't really doing anything, maybe stabilizing a little. I want you to, this is some of your homework, is to explore this area. Can you get the thumb up higher in there? I used to work, I had a client several years ago who was an aerial artist, aerial dance, and she did all kinds of fire spinning and hooping and trapeze work. And her subscapularis was so jacked on each side. And the same old story, years of physical therapy and seeing people. She was a really smart woman, was a physical therapy assistant. And I asked her about the ache in the wrist. We released her subscapularis. Years of all this tension. It literally was like a key that unlocked her whole shoulder. And she cried. No one's ever touched me there. No one's ever done that. It was a really significant release for her. So much so that she quit being a PT assistant and went back to doing massage therapy and now specializes in trigger points just like me. Interesting. All right. When you find a spot, just sinking and breathing. I know this isn't the most fun place to work. I know it doesn't feel as good as like rolling a ball in between your shoulder blades, which I promise we're going to do. I kind of set that up so that you would forgive me for this part. Oh my gosh. One more breath. Great. And release and reach the arm back. All right. Yes. How wonderful. Squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other. It should be so much easier now to stretch the arms behind you and reach them back. Since we're sitting in the chair, I'm going to just show you how to grab the lats and teres, and then we're going to end with that in between the shoulder blades. We're not going to spend an extraordinary amount of time here. I'm going to ask you to pick one spot. So similar grab as subscapularis. So I often do them together at around the same time. I'm going to take my right thumb. I'm going to go back to that armpit line. But this time I'm not trying to get onto the shoulder blade. I actually am trying to squeeze this tissue. So I'm going to stay out here. See that? This is my lats and teres. This is my lats and teres. This is the other two parts of the big three. So here with my little lats and teres, I'm going to just squeeze along this outer edge until I find something that feels tender. And notice I'm not grabbing, I'm not doing a big deep grab. I'm actually trying to just grab as kind of far out as I can. I'm moving my arm out of the way. Your arm is going to need to be completely relaxed for you to get this tissue. So really exploring just that very outer edge, not this big deep grab. That might feel kind of cool, but it's not going to get the points that we're looking for. So I could even with my fingertips find the outer edge of my shoulder blade and kind of just squeeze away from there. So good. Oh, there's my spot. There it is. There's the spot right there. So the back flap of the armpit, not on the shoulder blade. I'm gonna release this a little and show you. See how like I'm just in this rope of tissue right here, right? Before we were deep in the armpit, now we're just right on this rope. I want you to do one more squeeze. Nice. And then we're going to check the other side. So other arm to opposite shoulder, following that outer edge of the armpit, relaxing your arm so that this is soft. Getting that edge, the muscles, I'm just going to keep showing you different angles, right? But I have to do that with my arm relaxed. You might even relax your arm up on the back of a chair if you have a back of a chair that you're sitting in, and squeezing along that edge. So I'm going to turn this way so that you can see it better. Squeezing along the edge. Notice I'm not going real deep. I'm just going to keep repeating that so it's because it's important. And then here I go. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, right there. Once you find something tender, you pick one spot, then just take a few breaths there. Lats and teres. All right. Ooh, okay, great. Getting so prepared for our grand finale. I'm going to move this chair off to the side. We're going to go back to the wall for the last little bit. Back to the wall for the last little bit. Okay. Make sure all this is, yep, still connected. Very good. Okay. This is the part everyone always wants. It's the part everyone always wants, is the in between the shoulder blades, right? Because those areas in between the shoulder blades, when we get rounded, they get long, and when they get long, they go, ah, I don't like that. So I'm going to show you this awesome way to get this ball just in the right spots in between your shoulder blades. We're going to take this ball and you're going to take it in your left hand to reach over your right shoulder. So now first steps are really, you have to bring your butt to the wall. So bring your butt to the wall. Lean, I'm going to come down a little bit so you can see me. You don't have to be this far away, but lean a little forward, ball in the left hand, drop it over the right shoulder, and drop it over the right shoulder, and then throw it across the room. Oh my goodness. Someday I'm going to have a tech crew. They're just going to hand me another ball. It's going to be awesome. So leaning over, drop that ball and trap it with your body so that then you lean over just a little bit at a time and let the ball slide down in between, in that space in between your shoulder blades. Now you lift your back off the wall and go up and down. Okay, I'm going to adjust myself so that I'm in a little bit of a better position. Butt to the wall. Leaning forward just a little. Drop in that ball so it gets trapped in between the shoulder blade and the spine. Get it to the bottom of the shoulder blade area and then go up and down. And then a little side to side. Now again, the closer you stand to the wall, the less pressure. The further your feet go away from the wall, the more pressure you're putting on the ball. You can just keep pulling that ball out and adjusting it. Maybe you want to get more of this upper area. I want you to just explore. We're going to spend a few minutes on each side. We're not getting particularly specific in any part of this area. I just want you to, from the bottom of the shoulder blades to the top of the shoulder blades, in between the spine and the shoulder blade itself, that whole sort of rectangle area, I want you to explore. If the ball falls or goes too low, you just pick it up and put it back again, okay? And oh, it's so good there. It's so good, that upper corner, right? Oh my gosh. Upper corner of the shoulder. So next week, we're going to spend more time specifically on the whole rotator cuff, on the deltoids, on this upper trapezius and this space in between the shoulder blades, getting real specific in the rhomboids. Right now, I want you to just explore. I want you to get used to this movement and this action. Wiggle a little side to side. See if you can feel, bump into the spine, don't roll on it. Bump into the shoulder blade, right along that edge of the shoulder blade. It's where the rhomboids hold all their tension. So you kind of cruise along that edge of the shoulder blade itself. And I'm going to come closer to this camera, see if we can get edge of the shoulder blade. I'm going to give you one more minute. So you're going to continue doing that. I'm going to mute myself for a moment. Okay, great. So you've been working on that right side between the shoulder blade and the spine. We're going to move off that ball and then just do some shoulder circles and reach back and forward, back and forward, circling around. And then now we're going to do that on the left side. So same ball, the small ball you need for this, butt to the wall, ball in the right hand, lean forward just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like this or the ball's going to drop all the way down, probably to the floor. Lean a little forward, put the ball back, that top corner of the shoulder blade, and then as you lean forward, see how the ball just perfectly starts to slide down into that area, right? And then when you get most of the way toward the bottom of the shoulder blade, you just lift your butt off the wall. And that will tell you if you picked the right distance for your feet, because your body weight is now going to come down into that ball. I just like to relax my arms here and exploring. I'm going up and down that whole area between shoulder blade and spine. I'm going to move my other shoulder out of the way. It's hard to show both sides, right? Up, doop-a-dum. Remember, movement creates hydration in the tissue, hydrates the tissue. So rolling a ball over the tissue also hydrates the tissue. It's different than actually moving in your body. It's a different way to flush some fluid into the area. And you definitely want the area hydrated. You want the tissue hydrated. All healing, all communication happens in the liquids in our bodies. So if your tissues get real dehydrated, you can't heal. You just cannot, which is why now they have people moving sooner and sooner and sooner after surgery, because they found that people weren't healing well after surgery because they kept them still for too long. So I'm getting up in that corner of the shoulder blade. Upper corner, such a good area. We're going to get so specific in this next week. Up and down still, just exploring. Find your spots. When you find a tender spot, you can sink in and just take some breaths, or maybe rock a little side to side. Notice the places where your body holds the tension. Like, ooh, that's sore. Oh, I didn't even know that was there. Oh my gosh, I need to spend a little more time here before class next week, right? Rock a little side to side, bump into the spine, don't roll over the spine, bump into the edge of the shoulder blade, don't roll on the shoulder blade. Ah. 2 more breaths wherever you are. Maybe you get still. Do a little wiggle. All right, and then now we're gonna move off that ball. I was so proud I caught it and then I threw it on the floor. And we're gonna go back to our ITYW a few times. We're gonna do a couple more stretches and then we're gonna get down on the floor. Okay, here we go. Swinging your arms. Remember, you can choose any movement that feels good to your body, that feels right to your body. I give you suggestions. If it doesn't work and it's too painful for your body, do something different, but make sure you move. Okay, so here we go. ITYW. Oh my gosh, my hands are like amazing. It's so good. ITYW. Do it again. ITYW. Again, ITYW. Notice, is it easier for you to bring your arms up in I? Do your arms get closer to your ears? Does the T feel easier? How about that Y? Does that feel more open? That W, does that feel easier? Great, relax, stop the movements, couple shoulder circles. And now we're going to do a little stretch in the scalenes and come down to the floor to finish. So finding the collarbone. Here's the collarbone. Here's my right collarbone. I'm going to take my left hand on the skin below the collarbone. Anchor that tissue with the other hand, just kind of pressing down toward the floor. Okay. Left hand is on your skin along the collarbone. Right hand rests on that underneath the collarbone. We're going to tilt the head away and then lift the chin. And then open and close your mouth. Reach your chin. Keep anchoring this tissue down. If you release the hand, there's like no stretch, right? So you have to anchor the tissue down with your hand. I feel it all the way through the jaw, even into my ear. Other side. Right hand comes along the left collarbone. On the skin. Anchor your skin down. Left hand supports that anchoring down toward the earth. Tilt the head to the right. Lean the head back. Tilt the head back. And then explore. Maybe a little movement. Open and close your mouth. Notice I'm like pushing my chin up. Such a good stretch. Great. And then release. Head side to side. Keep going. Keep going. Just shaking your head. Nope. 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 And now we're going to start tilting ear toward the shoulder and lift the shoulder toward the ear. Tick-tocks. Hopefully you've been doing those neck movement breaks. Okay, last little strengthening thing before we lay down. We're going to, now that we've freed the chest quite a bit, freed the shoulder blades, now the neck is freer, we're going to work to reestablish a good slight curve in the neck and bring a little strength to the muscles in the back of the neck. So our final thing, you're going to interlace your fingers. Let's see. Interlace your fingers, clasp your hands behind your head. So you're clasping your hands behind your head, and your elbows come forward just a little bit so they're comfortable. You're going to look up toward the ceiling, and then you're going to actually push your head and your hands together, and you should feel the muscles in the back of your neck tense or contract or get strong. I'd rather think of them as getting strong than getting tense. You're just pushing. I'm looking up about 45 degrees. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to push the head and the hands together for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now drop your chin and then release. I hope you feel as good as I do. I'm going to get you down on the floor for Shavasana. So you're going to get down on the floor. Time to relax. For this Shavasana, you might want to do, I'm going to give you 2 options for chest opening in Shavasana. So for chest opening in Shavasana, you can take your blanket and you can, or your towel, whatever you have. Always want to have a towel, as I mentioned, or a blanket. And you just want to get like a little bit of a roll. So I just made a little bit of a roll. And you're going to lay that blanket on the floor so that there's just a thin little roll. This is one option for your laying down and integrating in Shavasana. And you're going to lay that right under your shoulder blades, and then the armpits are off. Notice my armpits are here. I'm not down here like this, right? That feels terrible. It's like on the shoulder blades, across the shoulder blades. The knees can come together and the arms are out. So that's one version. If you happen to have 2 yoga blocks and you would like another version, then you have this option. You can set one of your blocks up like this, and do it this way. And then you can put the other block down like this. And then your shoulder blade area lands here, and the back of your head lands here or here. So I'm going to do mine this way, and we'll see how close I guessed on that location. So shoulders land there, and then head, not too bad, lands here. So now, of course, you can use pillows. You're at home. You can do whatever you use, whatever you want. And this is kind of like lets this drop. Now that you've released a lot of tension in the pecs and this area can be much more free and open. So I'm going to give you about a full minute to lie here quietly. Let me check that. Yeah. Because we're done now, so. Let your breath get a little bigger and fuller. Sigh it out. Start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Just a short little integration at the end. You're going to mindfully move yourself off of your support. And then come up to a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. And that might mean that you are kneeling on a block like I like to do. Sitting up well and tall. And with your right hand, find your heartbeat. Let's take a moment to appreciate the gift of this life. Appreciate this beating heart inside your beautiful chest. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my honor to be here with you all. I hope you feel awesome and amazing.